I'm Liz Larson with The Art of Frosting. It's starting to be fall in this part of the world, and we're turning our attention to things more fall-like. Also, a lot of you have asked me about cakes for men or guys. So I'm starting a little series on some cakes for guys and also things that are really appropriate for fall. So here, it's hunting season. So we got a lot of hunters who like to have things hunter related. So I decided to make this cake that actually has an elk skull, it could be a deer skull, it could be a cow skull, and some cactus. It has a simple, clean look, even though it's very 3D, but it's perfect for a guy. There's going to be a lot of fun sculpting elements, but we're only going to use 3 tips. We're going to use a quick icer, we're going to use a number 124 rose tip, and we're going to use the end of a coupler. That's really it. This is fun, so let's get started. I want you to see here that normally we really work hard to get our cakes to be very, very smooth. On this one, I kind of let it be rough. That's so that there's a little more texture underneath. It looks a little bit more like sand or dirt. You could also even stripe in a little brown. If you ended up with some stripes in your color, you could leave that too. This cake is going to be pretty covered, so I'm not going to go to extra lengths, but just wanted you to show that it's okay on this one to leave it a little bit rough. Okay, so it's time to do just a little preparation for our skull. This is a 6-inch round, and also my 2 cakes that I am placing them on are 6-inch round. I want to just cut kind of a narrow triangular shape, and this is going to be for my skull. Okay, now what I found for this particular skull, I'm making an elk skull, is I needed an extension. So I'm just going to use the back side here and cut that for my extension. Just even it up a little bit. Not too much because it's kind of the dome of the skull on the back. Now I just want to remind you, like I always do, we're working with frozen cake. I want at least 1 skewer all the way down through my cake because I'm going to move this. Now, I've done this a couple different ways and I decided that I really liked it the best way. So I'm going to do my skull off of the cake and then move it on. But you can do it the other way as well. I happen to prefer doing it this way, and I'll explain as I go. I want to put that back in the freezer. I'm not quite ready to use it yet, so we want to put that in the freezer. So I'm going to take what's left of my 6-inch round here, and I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to use these for my cactuses. I really want a 3D effect here, so I'm going to go ahead and use what I've got. If you want to secure this with a straw, that would be fine too. Now I really want a 3D here, so I'm going to put one here and one here, kind of in a triangular shape, not a perfect triangle. I don't want this to look too perfectly even. Make sure it's really secured. If your cake is too soft, you'll want to use skewers. This cake is pretty firm, so I'm okay with it like that. The next piece is, I'm going to use even a smaller piece here and cut that in half. And I'm going to place it here back on the top. Next, I have some cupcakes that I'm just going to cut in half. And you can trim, mine are a little bit unruly cupcakes here. I really just want the top half of the cupcake, just that thin section on the top. And I'm going to use that towards the back here. Now remember, I kind of want a triangle, but not a full triangle. So I'm going to place this here so that I can have another piece of cactus coming out. I don't need a full one, it's only going to come down. You can use your cupcakes anywhere you want and to make more cactus, or you can sculpt with icing. So I'm going to show this technique and sculpting with icing. Okay, so we're going to stripe our bags. We're going to start with the lavender, and I just want a tiny bit. Stripe up one side. And then I want to fill the bag, and not too carefully with these other colors. I don't necessarily want stripes. I want variegated color. I want soft colors that blend together. I'm going to be using my quick icer bag, my quick icer tip in it, and I'm also going to be using just the end of a coupler. The reason I'm using a quick icer bag is I really don't want to have to do a lot of blending, and I don't want to muddle my colors. So this is the easiest way that I have found to get the color combinations that I want. So there really aren't any rules about this because we're making it up as we go along. I've just done this one a couple times by now, and these are the best ways I found to do it. So you want to come right straight up the front and over the top so you can get that nice rounded edge. Then I'm just going to come back. Tuck this under. Now we're going to do a little bit of blending, and that's okay, but we don't want to have to do a lot. So the straighter lines we can get and the nicest edges, the best. It just saves us a little time. I ended up with a little more lavender than I wanted, but I'm not going to correct it yet because I want to see what happens here. Sometimes when we end up with not exactly the colors we want, it's a nice happy accident. So let's see how it pans out. You want to have your handy dandy Ziploc bag here that you've seen me use so many times, or as Leah used in one of our last videos, you definitely can get parfait strips if you can find them. So we just want to really lightly begin to blend our colors. Now I didn't end up with quite the roundness that I want here, so I'm going to come back in and add that with my bag and coupler. Come right back in and just smooth that out. Now you want to try as hard as you can not to overwork. These are Cactus, so they can be a little rough. We're also going to spot them up with some dots. So come in and get them as smooth as you can without overworking. Try to keep it also off your sand if you can. So here's another little piece we used with our cupcake. I'm just going to come in and blend that down to the side with my tip here. And then with this one, I can just fill in. Now this is going to need a lot more with my bag, so I prefer to use the quick icer, but you can see that this works as well. And if you don't have a quick icer, which you should have one by now, you can do it like this. And it's the same thing. We're just going to come back in and begin our smoothing process. So next we're just adding just our icing Cactus. And so Cactus is kind of, really tightly grouped together. And our hope is here that we're just going to overlap them, come around a couple times, and come up the front. Our hope is that we're really just going to make one or two swipes here across the front, just evening out our front. Kind of like so, and letting our round edges just be round. Next step is we want to come in and we want to create the base for our little flowers. And that is just a squeeze. You're going to let it build, rotate lightly, rotate, and you want to kind of let it be a little rumply like that. We'll do one more over here. This one's going to be a small one. Like so. And so we just want to go around here and build up a few more of these cactus. Not too many from this point, but you want at least one or two on each side of your large cactus. I've added all the cactuses I think I want, and I have one more step for making them look like cactus. Just want to take a sharp skewer and come in and poke dots. Now make sure that you wipe the skewer off every few dots so that you end up with dots and not just smeared spots. But this will take a couple minutes. Go around. They're very random. You want to make some bigger and some smaller. So we're back with our frozen triangle here with a little extension. This is going to be our elk head. So we want to make sure that you have a good picture of an elk head. You can do a cow head, you can do a deer, whatever you're going to do, but have a good picture around so you have a good idea of proportion. I'm just doing this right on my turntable because I'm going to transport, and this is nice and frozen, but you could do it on a board as well. I want to just rough in the shape. Quick Icer comes in really handy for this. We know that we're going to need a real dome here, so we want to add that icing on now and round out the back. Bring this down into our nose cone, and we want to leave these so that we can create holes for our eye socket. Next, we're going to use our coupler, and of course we want our strip of Ziploc. So we're just going to quickly rough in this shape that we have here. And then double check our proportion. Make sure we're really the right length. Start to rough in your eyes. And at this point, really, it is a rough in because we just want to get an idea of our proportion. We don't want to do too much work at this point because we may need to shift our proportions a little. We want to start to take off the icing underneath here so that we have a nice rounded edge. And get the icing enough off so that you can take a look at your nose cone and see what you've got here. So I'm taking a look at my proportion here, and I think that my skull could have the potential to be just a little long. But I do need to rough in this end of his nose cone here because we want to hollow that out. So I'm thinking that if I can hollow that out just by cutting a triangle shape out like that, then I'll actually end up with the right shape. So I'm just going to add a little bit here, like so, and come back in and smooth it out. You want to just come in and use your edge here to hollow and smooth. Now, we know that we're going to need to add some contrast in color. I intend to use the airbrush here, but I want to show you a couple of other ways to do it. So we've kind of got our nose cone roughed in, like so. We want to come back in and add our eye bones here and here, just with the end of our coupler. And then you're going to gently smooth those back in. Just the edge where it's rounded, you're just going to unround it and move it back into the skull, just like so. And you can see this really goes very quickly if your icing is cooperating and is nice and stiff. Just smooth it back in. And again, we don't want too smooth, we kind of want rough. You want to come back and make sure that you've got a nice like brain cover here, so it's really deep underneath of there, coming out like this. You can see underneath, smooth. Okay, now that we're here, you can take the edge of your Ziploc and pull up here, making these bones more prominent right up into the eye. You can take the edge of your Ziploc and create the center ridge here, the center bone. Bring it right down in, creating a little gap there. The last thing we want to do is create our horn, the places where the horns actually would attach. They're right behind the eye. You want to just slowly, you can see my icing is really, really stiff here. This is what I want. We're just going to let them build. Come back in gently with your piece of Ziploc and just really lightly blend that in. Just a little is all you really need. And that's really about it. That's all you really need for the shape of this skull. Now he's real rough. His bones are rough. There's lots of little marks here, and that's exactly what I want. I want him to look rough and worn and like this thing has been out in the desert forever and ever. Now you may have noticed that the skewer is still here, and that is on purpose. I want to be able to move this. I also need it to be able to work very quickly so that my cake stays frozen. But I want to be able to use that skewer as a balancing point, and we will cut it off after we've moved it and positioned our skull. Now, I promised I would show you how to do this without an airbrush and with. So you want to take your gel paste color and add just a tiny, tiny bit of your pure color on the edge of your Ziploc bag. Then you can use it for things like this, coming right up your center. I'm adding just the tiniest touch of color in these spaces, just roughing it in. And that's what you would do if you want to add color without your airbrush. Now make sure you're done smoothing, because if you're not, you will smear this color in and you don't want that. But you can see you can add just a touch of color like on the orbits, and then if you put too much, just come in and take a little bit off. But that is the way to age this a little bit if you do not have an airbrush. Next, we're going to use our airbrush. Just got a touch of brown. And we're just going to really gently highlight these areas. Along the bottom edge. I'm just using a little bit of brown. I don't want to use black here because I just want to show weathering and aging. I don't really want to get it muddled up with black. So just a little bit here. And that is all you need, just a touch. Okay, now we're at the hard part where we want to move our skull. You can see it's still pretty firm, it's still pretty frozen. I have to decide where I want it. So I've decided that this will be the front of my cake. I'm going to gently bring it over. I want it to hang over the side just slightly and bring it back down. I want it to look nestled in, like it's been sitting between these cactus forever. Now, I really wanted it to be just slightly more angled. I'm going to take just a tiny piece of my cupcake and tuck it way under and let it rest back down. The last step on the skull is to come in here tight and clip this. You want to be really careful not to get the rest of your cake. There you go. And just use just a touch of your Ziploc here and cover over. We're almost there, almost finished with this cake, and you really could leave it just like it is. But you guys know me, more is more. There are a few things you could do. You could add candy rocks at the bottom. I actually kind of like the simplicity of the base. But what I do want to add is some cactus flowers. So we just have a number 124. You could use a number 104 as well. And we are just going to create a 5-petal flower that stands straight up. So there's one petal. The second, just another zigzag. You want it to go straight up and down. You see I'm just using my turntable, just a big lazy ruffle. Actually, this one I think is only going to be 4 petals. Just a big lazy ruffle. You can see how that is. A cactus flower really isn't anything specific. It's very loose, it's very roughly, but it does stand up straight. It can be bright pink, it can be white, it can be red. but usually crisp, clear colors. I'm not going to variegate this one. We're going to come back in with our yellow base, or you could use a bright, bright base and a bright, bright yellow. And we're just going to pull little hairs of stamen up. That really is the hallmark of a cactus flower. Lots and lots and lots of fine, fine stamen. This one you can see a little better. So we're just going to pull them up all in here. Lots and lots of fine stamen. Just squeeze and pull it right up. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this 3D skull cake. I really like this one. The more times I do it, the more new ideas I get. I hope you guys can start to see some of the possibilities here. So give it a try. Let me know how it works out. There's lots of ways you can do it. You could even do it with marshmallows if you wanted underneath here. You could try donuts. Half donuts would work great underneath these cactus. So let me know what you guys come up with. I can't wait to see it. You can share those designs at The Art of Frosting on Facebook, where great decorators just like you are sharing their work. You can find me at www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com, where there's a full body of my work there, and you can look up what you need and find the photos for some inspiration. Thanks for watching, guys. There's more to come. See y'all again soon. Bye-bye.